Kevin, starting with the, I guess, the first transaction of the day and the biggest one in terms of name. Was Kevin Hayes a player that had long sort of been on your radar? And if so, what is it about the player that attracted you to him?
You know, so the irony of it, actually, I go back to, I was the assistant GM with the Chicago Blackhawks when we drafted Hayes. So when I was talking to him today, I told him, I said, it's kind of come full circle in a lot of respects because, that was, one of the years that I was there. But with respect to, the situation as it unfolded, again, you do your meetings in January and you start mapping out and planning, what may or may not be available, at that point in time. And you start, what different kinds of due diligence processes, internally, and you get to, to know what you feel you need, based on your organization. So Kevin's a good fit for us, in many, many ways. He's someone that, I think everyone talks about obviously his size and his offensive abilities, but I really think that what's going to shine through here is his defensive abilities as well. A penalty killer, responsible. He's someone that over the course of his career, has grown his game from just being a pure offensive player, in high school and college, and grown his game to a really mature professional game.
That draft pick you mentioned, that was part of the Dustin Byfuglien trade, was it not?
Could have been, yeah.
The idea of moving another first-round pick this year, I know we spoke last year at this time, and that wasn't an easy decision. So take us through the decision to once again part ways with a first-round pick to try and bolster your team.
Well, again, it's about taking advantage of the opportunity that you have in front of you, and you're never going in. You never go in saying I'm going to trade my first-round pick. Again, you go in to try to make a deal that works for you. One, it has to fit for you, and you have to be comfortable with the acquisition price. And we are in both instances, very comfortable with the fit, for this team, and again, comfortable with the acquisition price.
Was this the depth pieces that added last year? It was just Joe Morrow in addition to Paul Stastny. Obviously, a number of moves made today. I guess starting with the two left shooting defensemen, is that related to Josh Morrissey's injury situation at all?
So it's deadline day. A couple years ago, night before the deadline, we lost Mark Scheifele, and it's a very difficult situation going in at that point in time. When you don't have options in front of you, there were no centermen in the market to really cover yourself with. In this situation here, obviously Dustin's out, Joe Morrow's out, and Josh is going to still be evaluated. The team stayed in Arizona overnight. It was a scheduled travel day the way our schedule is set up. So it made it difficult, obviously, to really get assessed by our doctors in a timely fashion. And I felt it was appropriate that we needed to add the pieces, to have the depth, moving forward here. And you can never have enough D when it comes to, the attrition rate as you hope you go deeper here. So we feel, again, we know these players, well as far as what they're, bringing to the organization. Bogdan is someone that we had recruited actually from a perspective of bringing him over as a unsigned, European free agent, and you try to get those players at different points in time. So he was someone that, again, when I talked to him today, we talked about the conversation we had 12, 14, 16 months ago, whatever it was, again, deadline day can present some things that work for you, make sense for you. It was, kind of busy right at the end to get some players that we feel, are going to fit in.
So just last one for me, but to clarify, so you can't say at this point with Josh Morrissey if it's short-term, long-term?
I haven't talked to, the medical trainers or anything like that. Like I said, they've been on a flight all day. Really, I guess maybe they have Wi-Fi in the air. They might have been hearing what was going on, but I've never had any conversations with anyone yet.
Yeah. Mark Stone was thrown around. His name was in the mix. Can you just talk about maybe what happened there, or was the deal ever close, I suppose?
He was traded to Vegas. You didn't see that?
I did see that.
Oh, you know, again, this is it's an interesting time because you make calls all over the place, and again, you talk to the managers not just this week, but as time goes, and you get a feel for what you might be able to do, not be able to do, what the price is going to be, and ultimately, you make some decisions based on fit and those kind of things, and again, to sit here and go through all the different phone calls, that I made more than 7 than there, or whatever the deals that I made. So it's, it's hard to really, categorize what the manager-to-manager conversations were.
Was it important to you to keep a lot of the young talent that you had drafted still in the system? I know Brendan Lemieux came through a trade, but names like Jack Rossovic, Sami Niku were out there. Was it important for you to keep those guys?
They're big parts of our team. Jack Rossovic's a big player on our team right now. Sami Niku is a big player on our team right now. So those are the names that you just mentioned there. Appleton, they're all parts of our organization, both now and in the future. Tucker Pullman, these guys are important to us. Again, for the short term, the immediate term, and the long term.
Chevy, the Kevin Hayes trade came out through the networks of about 10:30 this morning. Yeah. Why did you act this morning and not at 1:45 or pick a time this afternoon?
Again, I think part of it is, when you're going through, this type of situation and trying to make a deal, it's when you both meet on, the asking price. Maybe you give a little too much and they take a little too less, and, whatever, both feel a little uncomfortable, and then you probably make a deal. So, that's really, I guess, the essence of it. There was no, timing, could have happened at, a minute before the deadline if that was going to be the case. So it's just, it worked out. We both, agreed and moved forward.
A bigger picture question. Several of the other good teams, top teams in the Western Conference, have made moves today. Some substantial.
Yeah.
How do you see this race in the Western Conference now going forward?
It's, just like it always does. I think it's whether you make a move or you don't make a move. And I'm going to be, and I'm perfectly honest. I said it last year. If we didn't get the right fit and we felt Paul was the right fit, we weren't going to make a move because we felt good about our team. But again, if there's a fit there and a need there, and you can address those things, then you do it. But there's not a team in this league that's just going to make trades just for the sake of making trades. You get to where you're at by what's going on now. Certainly, there's some extenuating circumstances at the time, and deadline day is the last day you can make moves. So you've got to assess some things. And for us, we do have 3 banged up defensemen right now that, at various different stages of their recovery, and we needed to make some of those moves. And up front, again, with Kevin and with Per, and with Hendy, it's they're all addressing certain needs that we feel we had within this organization at this time.
Does a manager ever sit in that war room and say, well, Team A did this and Team B did that? We better look at doing something, keep up, or to keep competitive?
You really don't have the time to do that because, there's lots of other forces that are acting all the time. So it's not a real reactionary. Now, you might lose someone on the board that you're in, and, I'll tell you that the last hour, was a real flurry of things because of the, one, when you get a deal done, when you got to get it into the league, and you got to put it, email it back and forth to each other and get it into the queue and stuff like that. So all of those things have to be done, before the deadline. So it gets got pretty, hectic right at the end with all the deals that we did, because some of them didn't happen obviously until the very last minutes.
The eventual, the eventual price for Stone doesn't seem that high. Is it safe to say it was higher when you were involved?
I'm not going to comment on what like I say, the conversations between managers happen. Obviously teams do deals and agree at different points in time, and so for me to comment on any deal that may or may not have happened or did happen not involving me is really not my place.
Why Matt Hendricks?
Matt's again a real professional. He's someone that again I think provides a lot of leadership, in our room. When I sat down with with guys like Blake and with Mark and even with Paul, we talk about the different things, with respect to our room. We're the youngest team, or we were at least going into the deadline today, the youngest team in the National Hockey League. And, again, there's some importance, that goes along the way. There's, if you want to be the ultimate champion, it's a long grind, and you have to be prepared for it. And you need people that are going to, help you prepare for that. And Hendy's a real pro, that comes, competes, prepares, and is ready to play every night.
And just one last quick one on Josh. Is it safe to say he's not playing tomorrow? Can you at least say he's...
Yeah, he's not playing tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's just...
I guess I watched the game, so that's all I did, but, so.
Kevin, are you expecting Hayes to be in the lineup for tomorrow?
I believe so, so the only people more busy than the trade center calls was, the travel agent here. So I believe, most of the players I think will be in, but I think Kevin will be in. The deal was done, earlier in the day. So, the flights and that I think, should, but I think he'll be getting in, later today. Nathan as well. I think Bogdan, not sure if he can get in for the skate tomorrow. I think Hendy can drive up. And I think Per is going to get here tonight as well.
In the short term, where do you see Kevin Hayes fitting into the lineup?
That would be the guy that has the name Paul Maurice, head coach, and we've had lots of conversations, and it's a lot of you are fortunate to have conversations with Paul and listen to his insight and talk about how he likes to use players and his thought process and that. So a lot of the due diligence that goes in is, okay, Paul, I'm going to throw a name at you. How would you fit him in? Where would you fit him in? Does he fit in? And you'd be shocked because sometimes it's not the bigger name, that the coaches, gravitate towards. It's the ones that fit. And, so again, it's interesting to listen to their conversations. And then it's funny because they're coaches and, you might have that same conversation with them tomorrow and they're going to be like, I'm like, no, wait a minute. Like, go back over my notes here. So, again, it's, Paul and I talked, quite extensively about these, and I'm sure he's got, Plan A and Plan B and Plan C already in the works.
Luckily for my second question, I think this falls under Kevin Cheveldayoff.
Okay.
Long term, you look at obviously centers are a very important pieces.
Yeah.
You look at what's going on with Mark Stone and him being reported on both sides to be reaching a long-term agreement. Where do you see maybe Kevin Hayes in the future? Or are you looking that far ahead?
Really haven't. Again, it's been all about today, and it's been all about just the acquisition sides of things, and whatever it turns out to be, again, you go into it eyes wide open and with no misconceptions that, if there is something to work out down the line, we'll look at it. If it is just a pure rental, then, that's the way it is. But they're all Winnipeg Jets, and they're all here to do one thing, and that's to, help us win a Stanley Cup.
You mentioned you've been doing this for some time, obviously been around the trade deadline. For yourself, particularly the last 2 years, how valuable is a first-round pick anymore?
Valuable, real valuable. Like, don't ever underestimate and don't ever think that it's an easy thing to just sit there and just do, because you look at how we built this organization, and we will have to build this organization continuing with those draft picks. So, as excited as you are for the immediate, come talk to me, in Vancouver and see how lonely I am. But hopefully it's way down at the end of the draft floor.
Just last one. When you look at what you've done for months now with the scouting staff, and then finally up to this final day, what's your overall feelings about this team right now as you head into this final stretch?
I like this group. It's again, no 2 years are ever going to be similar, even if you have every single player the same. You're going to go through your ups, you're going to go through your downs, you're going to have your adversity. And I think that, if you look at ultimate Stanley Cup championship teams, in the end, and you dissect their seasons, like, it's never really all that smooth. It's never, one straight line from start to finish. And, it's interesting because, we have to understand how hard it is, to win. We have to understand how hard it was to get, to those next rounds. And, people say, well, geez, 82 games, it's a long grind. It is. And you know what? The next grind is even going to be harder. So you have to, you have to build yourself up. But one thing that we have, now is the perspective of, some experience, so it's, again, you got to get there. That's the first and foremost thing. You've got to earn your right to get to the playoffs. And then you better respect each and every day that, that you're there because, every day matters.
Kevin, you made the most trades in the league today, and that's usually not the norm for you. So what does that say to the fans?
Well, I think, regardless of the number that I made, I didn't set out to, try to, set any, type of, records or personal accomplishments or anything like that. I think from day one, with the organization and my tenure here, I said, we'll do whatever we need to do. And whether it's, make some trades, whether it's acquire some draft picks, for a couple years we were on the other side of it. We were the sellers at this deadline, and it's tough. I've been on the other end of the phone. You acquire pieces that, you need to use judiciously to move forward, and we have. And I remember talking, a couple years ago when we were a seller and you talk about, well, I'd like to buy some things too. And it's a tough day to buy because it's expensive. There's lots of things that that you have to pay for. But as an organization, as a players group, as a coaching staff, they earn the right, for me to try to make these moves to try to, provide the depth and try and get some pieces that fit to maybe give us a push.
And did the teams, like some poor results recently, impact any sense of urgency on your part?
No, again, it's, so certainly some of the injuries might impact, again, your need and your wants to get some depth, because, again, this is the final day. Like, whatever you have, you have. But as far as the play goes, like, again, that goes back to where I said it's an 82-game season, and you have to learn, how to go through the highs and lows, and you have to learn that, you got to be ready for the grind, and that's, what, again, you need to, work towards here. So as far as, managing day by day and with the wins and losses, yeah, you wear them, you live them. You wear it on your sleeve with your emotion, but from the perspective of what you have to do, you have to look at the big picture of the year, not just a week or a 2-week span.
Okay, my last question, just a comment about the trade of Patan and what you hope to benefit from Parr.
So Parr again is Parr actually is the name. Is another player that we scouted over in Europe from a free agent perspective and met with him a couple of times, and obviously, he chose to sign with Toronto. But, again, he's a little bit more of a veteran player. He's played in the National Hockey League the entire year. He can kill penalties, in the National Hockey League. So, he gives us, another option there for Paul. To use, at his discretion. And again, if you look at the month of March, with the compact schedule that we have, it's important that you have the depth. Nick was a great player in our organization, like a highly touted, player that we drafted. Again, wasn't getting the opportunity here, and I made some, commitments to, his, him and his representatives that I would try to find, something that would give him the opportunity to get a new start in an organization, as long as it, was mutually beneficial. And I wish him all the best. He's a classy pro. He's worked real hard. Through some very, very difficult circumstances, and came to the rink each and every day, and regardless of whether he was in the lineup or not, he was a real pro. So I wish him all the best.
Kevin, through the grind of February and March and early April last year and into the playoffs, what did you most appreciate about Matt Hendrick's role with his hockey club last year?
Well, again, I think, I'm not in the room each and every day, so, I am not immersed in that aspect of things. But, you know, again, one thing that you just can't underestimate, again, is a person's value, you know, within the room and what, you know, what he brings to those things. Some of our younger players that were around our team last year benefited immensely, you know, with the experience, you know, that they got, you know, with Matt. Some of our veteran players, you know, benefited, you know, immensely from it. So, you know, as an organization, you know, again, we're excited to have him back. It's something that we've talked about here for, you know, for a little while. If there was an opportunity, you know, it was tough. We might have even brought him back in the summertime if, you know, if it were not for him signing in basically his hometown and getting a chance to play in front of his family. You know, so again, it's you know, hockey's a small world, and you never know when it's all going to work out again.
How do you feel about your work today in general compared to, you know, some of your Western Conference opponents?
Yeah, you know, I haven't really had a chance to digest, you know, what went on. Like, you know, again, you're sitting there with, you know, TSN on in the background or, you know, whatever you're watching, and you see different things happening. You hear different things chirping in your ear, but, you know, you're kind of, you know, focused in on your conversations and you know, making sure does this trade work in the cap? Do we have enough contracts? Do we have this? Do we have that? All the different things that go into it that you know, you have to be careful of, you know, behind the scenes. So you don't really get a chance to digest. But again, I like, you know, what we did today for our organization, and again, the game is played on the ice. It's not played, you know, in the boardroom or, you know, on the in the dressing room or, you know, on the score sheet or the stat sheet, you know, that gets handed out at the beginning of the game. So again, the moves we did were discussed and calculated, and, you know, again, feel good about it.
And Kevin, I just want to get a parting thought on Brendan Lemieux, and obviously he really seemed to grow this year as a player and valuable certainly at times to this team. So I assume he was a player that the Rangers probably wanted included in the deal.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, again, you don't make these moves without some casualties, and Brendan, you know, was a player that we acquired in you know, in a trade, you know, as a young unsigned player at that point in time. So, you know, again, when you start growing your organization, and again, it's a credit to our, you know, our scouting staff. Even though we didn't draft him, it was, you know, kind of the amateur scouting staff that, you know, recognized that, you know, he had what it takes or took at the time takes to become a National Hockey League player. But credit to Brendan, you know, he went and earned his rights. And every time I talked to him about, you know, what the opportunity was going to be, you know, in front of him, I said, it's going to be whatever you earn. And, you know, again, so young players in this organization, you know, have to earn their opportunities, whereas, you know, in years prior, you know, there's been maybe a little bit more opportunity for young players. So, again, tough to lose them. Wish them all the best. You know, I think the fans of the Rangers are going to really enjoy them.